That's not good. It broke. Hoo-wee! This water situation out here in the old American West, boy, got me thinking. This whole Lake Mead situation, Colorado River, massive drought we've been in, a D4 for, I think, the third time in 20 years. Now they're talking about a D5 category of drought for the first time in history. When I hear D5, it makes me think of all the grades I got in mathematics from the time I was in 6th grade through the time I graduated from college. Mathematically illiterate and proud of it. You might think I script out what I'm going to say. I don't. But this water situation got me thinking about what kind of photograph I could use for the next Notes on Photography. Where have I been in the world where there has been an abundance of water? More water than you knew what to do with. And the first place that popped into my head, and there were several, but one rocketed to the top, which was the Peruvian Amazon. If you have not been to Peru, here's my advice. Take a long, slow, deep breath. Don't do anything rash. Don't go look up the tourist spots. Don't go look up the top 10 places to go in Peru. Don't look up the hot restaurants, the hot resorts, the hot locations, because they're probably already overrun with people that you don't really want to hang out with anyway. Peru is 4 countries in one. Desert, city, ocean, mountain. Otherwise known as the Andes, the second largest mountain range on Earth, or the second, maybe it's the longest mountain range, but not quite as tall as the Himalaya, something like that. It's in the top 10 or top 100 mountain ranges. The Andes are incredible. You can sit in the Andes and let's say that you're like at 17,000 feet and you're sucking air and you're like, man, I'm out of shape. And then you look up and you see what you think is the mountain tops next to you. But then the clouds blow through and you realize that there's a whole nother range above that and a whole nother range above that. And I've only been a few places in my life where I've experienced that. But I'm not talking about the mountains, I'm talking about the jungle. So the Peruvian Amazon is a incredible place. I don't think I need to explain to you what the Amazon, in terms of its global importance to the planet, to the species, how many things have come out of the Amazon in terms of medicines that we have discovered throughout the years, the botany that's come out of there. The Peruvians have done a pretty darn good job in preserving their section of the Amazon. To get to where we made this picture was kind of an adventure in its own. So let me back up a little bit. I was at the Palm Springs Photo Festival. This is probably 10 years ago. And I run into a guy named Adam Weintraub who has a workshop program called Photo Experience. And Adam was also involved with Blue Earth Alliance out of Seattle. He's a really good photographer. He's a book publisher, happened to run a workshop program out of Latin America. And Adam says to me at the festival, hey, you should come to Peru and teach a workshop. Now, in the back of my head, I was like, oh, that'll never happen. It sounds too cool. It sounds too good. But it actually did happen. And over the years of teaching down there, I actually met a bunch of people that I'm still in contact with. In fact, most of the students that I met on those trips, I'm still in contact with. My friend Laura, who lives here in Santa Fe, first met her in Peru. My friend Fleming in Denmark, first met him in Peru. My friend Aura in Switzerland, in Peru, goes on and on. It's a really cool experience when you do small workshops and you get to spend a couple of weeks together. Kind of a bond forms, right? And you have the glue of photography in the middle. So we go to Peru to do this workshop, and we hit some of the places that you would expect us to hit. Places like Lima, places like Machu Picchu. And then we decide one year that we're gonna go to the Peruvian Amazon. So we fly to a place called Puerto Maldonado. And Puerto Maldonado is sort of a small town on the edge of the Amazon. And you fly in there and you take all of your belongings, which is not a whole lot to begin with, but you pare everything down into a bag about this big, a watertight bag, like a roll-up watertight bag. That's it. That's all you can take. Then you proceed to get in these very narrow, very long, dugout motorized canoes. and you start heading upriver. And you go hour after hour after hour. I think it's 7 hours in the first leg. You pull over and you go through a military checkpoint. That's some sort of border-ish-esque type thing. No machine guns, no nothing like that. Pretty simple. Passport check. Get out, you get back in the dugouts, and you do another day in these dugout canoes. And you just keep going upriver and upriver and upriver. And it's like Colonel Kurtz. It's Heart of Darkness. There's deadly spiders. There's like things in the water that you really don't want to encounter. And then you've got your fellow passengers who are, fellow passengers. You don't know. They could turn on you at any second. Anyway, you get up there and we get to this Macaw Research Center, which is way out in the middle of nowhere in the Peruvian Amazon. Get out, you stay in these rooms that are over basically marsh type land. Wooden platforms extend well out into the jungle. You get into these very, very simple rooms, open air, mosquito nets, and the monkeys and stuff are coming right up and inside the windows, and like they sound like rhinoceros coming through the forest. When you see the trees moving and you hear the noise, you're like, that sound should equate to an animal much larger. So we all get out to this place. And you immediately realize the one thing that doesn't belong in this location is a human being, because your body starts to deteriorate almost immediately. You're wearing knee-high rubber boots because everything is wet. Rain is pouring down. You're trying to keep your cameras dry, your sensors dry. You're trying not to change lenses. And you go out at night and you do these walks through the jungle at night. And the noise that is coming out of the jungle is hard to comprehend. You would think the jungle would be tranquil and peaceful, and you'd be like, oh my God, it's so serene. It's not. It sounds like a mall on 4th of July, or the day after Thanksgiving when people are lined up to open Walmart and this, they open the doors and people trample each other and they're duking it out. That's what it sounds like in the jungle. Massive critters, massive monkeys, spiders, snakes, animals. It is one of the singular most incredible environments I've ever been in. So we get past the first night, the second day, I should say. We go out and we continue to basically, all you're doing out there is you're encountering an ecosystem that most of us have never had a chance to encounter. And if you spend more than 5 minutes in this environment, one, it will never leave your mind. I think about this location all the time. I think about what I can do to help preserve this and what I can do to help people understand how unique and important this place actually is, not to mention how fragile. So the picture that we're going to look at was a picture that I made during one of these excursions. It's actually a very simple photograph, but it was about turning around and having my fellow students and friends become the subject matter. There's a few things about this image that I really like. I think that there's a tension in this that I'll point out. And there's a slight bit of layering. And I shot this with a 50 millimeter on a Leica M4 or an M6. And the 50 is such a cool lens because it's a chameleon lens. It's only a 50, but it does have enough throw to actually compress, which is one of the great things about a 50. You don't get that with a 35. 50 is the very first focal length in my experience where you start to get that. Get a slight bit of compression. And it's just this nice, tight, no-fat framing on a 50 that took me years to figure out how to use. I bought and sold, I don't know how many 50 mils before I got the 50 on the Leica. And then it was like a marriage made in heaven. I've never taken that lens off the camera, and I never will. So let's break this down, and I'll show you what I like about this image. I really wish you could see the hornet's nest of cables on my desk right now. It's terrifying. The fact that anything in this house, my computer household works, you know me by now. Okay, let's get to the serious matter here. Let's get to what's at hand. The sheer brilliance of this photograph and my masterful photographic artistry. No, just kidding. You would never ever say that about yourself, by the way. You never say I'm a great photographer or I'm this or that. You just let other people assign those titles to you, by the way. That was your helpful handy hint of the day. Okay, why I love this picture. The overbearing reason I love this picture, the number one reason, is this is what you would call the decisive moment. There is a moment happening here. Let me break this down. This whole thing back here, this canopy, is basically just there as a little warm embrace to show you that you are not in Kansas anymore, Toto. You are in the middle of nowhere. And that, when you're into this piece of jungle, if you took 10 feet off the trail and spun yourself around, you could get lost in approximately a second and a half. It is an incredibly dense area. It is wet. We are standing and all wearing rubber boots, except for Fleming. I think Fleming was wearing like some funky Danish shoe of some sort. But you've got this sort of slightly out of focus background here. And again, I'm shooting with the 50. There is one critically sharp area in this entire frame, and it's right there. It is on his eyes, which is what I focused on when I spun around. So I'm the one who's sort of walking in front of this group for no apparent reason. I have no idea where I'm going or what I'm looking for. This is the key. The person right here, his name is Daniel, if I remember correctly. He's sort of our guide out in this area. Without him, we'd all still be out there. They'd be picking our bones clean right now. Okay, this is my wife. This is Aura. And this, just tucked away here in the background, this hombre right here, that is Fleming. And these are Fleming and Aura students. My wife was also an instructor at some time, but she was just sort of traveling along with us. But basically what we have done here is somebody spotted something. My guess is there's a monkey in the trees above us. And my wife has quickly grabbed her bazooka of a lens here. Fleming is pointing up in that finger, and look at the way the light is on his hand, his arm right here, this separation, and the light on his fingers that allows it to separate from the background. You've got Aura here looking up, her camera's in hand. You've got the look on Daniel's face, the intensity on his eyes right here is pretty great. That's kind of, and again, this picture is here for a fraction of a second, and it's gone. And that's it. For me, when you're doing documentary work, this is the kind of picture that I am after all the time. I am out, and it's a terrible cliche for me to use this, but what Cartier-Bresson spoke about, the decisive moment, that to me is what reportage photography is about. I've said this 1,000 times. I don't really shoot old buildings. I don't shoot, houses. I don't shoot random stuff. I am looking for split-second moments that basically solidify and crystallize the entire experience of being in the jungle in one frame. And this is it, because I look at this picture and I feel the sweat, I feel the bugs, I feel the mud, I hear the sound, I smell the smells of the jungle, and it also reminds me about pals, about friendship, students, traveling, adventure, all of that stuff. So that is why I like this frame. All right, people. Peru. Yeah, hopefully looking at this picture and hearing this story has your brain percolating. I got to get to Peru. I got to get to Peru. You should. But remember, let's think about travel post-COVID, unlike we thought about travel pre-COVID. Let's think about going fewer places. Let's think about spending more time. Let's think about getting a better comprehension and understanding of the environments we're in. Heck, maybe even learn the language or a language that's used in the vicinity of where you're going to be. And also understand the history and again, the fragility of these ecosystems and what happens if they go away. So this to me is a very important image for me personally, again, simply because it reminds me of what it felt like to be there. And there's 2 or 3 images from this day that I really like. Some are even more simple or simpler than the one that we're looking at now. That I have a picture of a tree. It's of course one of these incredible, massive Amazonian trees, but it's just a backlit tree shot with a 35 on Tri-X in the Leica, and I exposed for the shadow. So the whole canopy is glowing. right? And you look at it, it's printed on the wall and hanging in the bathroom. I don't know why I printed it. It's not like an exciting photograph. It just makes you feel like, what do I have to do to help this place, to preserve it? So anyway, that's Notes on Photography. I'll be back with many more. I am in a film making binge. I am squirting out films, 2, 3 a day. I just finished a blurb film, 30 seconds, trimmed cut, no fat. We'll see how that goes. If they like it or they don't like it, thumbs up, thumbs down, you know how it goes. I'll be back.